guys? It's your boy Zwolky back out with another Chris Watts video, but this is a little bit of different interviews put into one, just because the interviews are a little bit smaller and shorter. I wanted to just go through these interviews just to see if there's anything for us to red flag about or cause an eyebrow, as you will, the what's going on kind of thing. So we're gonna get into that, just watching it together and just reacting and listening with you at home. So before we go any further, if you guys could do me a solid favor and subscribe to my YouTube channel, not that one because I just turned off my light, but subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting that wiper icon down the bottom right. Hit the bell icon next to it, so when I do post videos like this one, you guys will get that little ring notification that I've posted that video, and then you guys can watch, comment, like, and share. And with that being said, let's get into the videos. All right, so this first one is by a Robert Mary. I'm guessing this is a person of Anadarko employee, or of an Anadarko employee. My bad. So I just wanted to see what he has to say.
Agent Stacey Galbraith interviewed Robert Mary by phone on the 23rd of August 2018.
So 10 days after.
CBI was requested to assist Frederick PD in a missing persons case homicide. Robert Mary was identified as an Anadarko employee who worked with a new Chris Watts. Agent Stacey Galbraith interviewed Robert Mary by phone on the 23rd of August 2018 at 10:53 a.m. Robert met Chris Watts roughly 2 years ago through work at Anadarko. Chris was Robert's team's rover. Chris also did computer work in the office in the absence of IOC staff that worked on computers. Robert does not know what IOC stands for. They look at computers to determine things about well production. Chris would look at the computer and then have someone go check out a well, if perhaps the production was down. Chris worked mostly in the field. He was always a rover and worked as an extra hand to employees, such as Robert, who had an assigned route. As a rover, Chris was not dedicated to a certain route. He would talk with the work group to see what help was needed where and then work there. Chris was a field operator and would cover routes as relief to those that were off work or could not cover their own routes. Robert considered Chris
So he was a stand-in.
A friend at work. They did not socialize outside of work. Sports was a big thing to Chris, and he is a Carolina Panther fan. Robert would talk about football with Chris. Chris did not really talk about anything personal at work. If Chris was gone from work, Robert and others would know that his kids were having a health issue, but that was really all Robert knew of Chris's family. Robert last saw Chris at work on the 10th of August 2018.
Friday.
Chris acted as he usually does. Robert has since watched interviews Chris gave to the media prior to his arrest, and Robert felt that the Chris on the interviews was the Chris he knew at work. His demeanor and body movements were as Chris was the way Robert knew Chris. He demonstrated nothing out of the ordinary to Robert. Robert saw Chris every day at work in the mornings. The employees with assigned routes would then
But ask this guy about Nicole. Let's just see what he has to say.
Leave the office and go work on their routes. Chris would get a task assigned or go back to work on something he was already working on. Robert saw no indications that Chris had any family problems.
Everybody said this. Everybody said this. They didn't see this coming. He acted normal. But then, like the Lindstrom said on that Sunday, something just turned in him. It's like, what happened within those few days?
He never met Shanann or their children. Robert once talked to Shanann by phone for her to give him her spiel about Thrive. Robert has seen stories about how Chris had a happy family, and Robert would have guessed that Chris lived a normal, happy family life. I asked about Chris's ability to complete tasks and work. There were no indications that Chris was not of sound mind at work. Chris was very thorough and checked boxes to make sure he had what he needed to get a job done. Chris was a mechanic prior to working for Anadarko. Robert said that Chris did his job very well. Robert stated that is trying to remember Chris as the guy that he worked with after this case. He was hesitant to provide his mailing address as he fears being bombarded with contact efforts to gain information.
That's ridiculous.
I assured him that his address would be in the law enforcement official report, which would be provided to Frederick.
People are scared to even given their information away because they don't want to be bombarded by haters, because the haters seem to go after everybody.
PD and the DA's office, but not released to the media by CBI. I told him that in the event he would be needed as a witness to testify, he would be contacted in the future. He did provide his address. I thanked Robert for his time.
All right, the next one is going to be by Christopher Ostrander. This was 3 days after the murders had taken place. I want to say this is probably another guy that was in Anadarko. Again, I want to reiterate too that these videos are from Footsteps of Murder. So go give them some love. Do the support that we all want to do to every single channel is support by subscribe, comment, like, and share. And let's continue into this video.
Detective Dave Baumhover spoke with vacuum truck driver Chris
Vacuum truck. Wait, is this the vacuum truck that everybody's been? No, that was a water truck, right? Try this again.
Ostrander on the 16th of August 2018. The following information was documented at the time it was gathered. On the 16th of August 2018, while at the Survey 319 oil tank site, I spoke with vacuum truck driver Chris Ostrander. Chris works for Complete Energy Services Incorporated and was on site to vacuum the crude oil from the catch pan the east oil tank was drained into.
So this was the guy that was out there draining the oil that the girls were in?
I asked Chris about the oil well site process and what prompts him to respond to a specific oil well site. Chris explained Complete Energy Services is contracted by Anadarko Petroleum to remove the oil and or water from the oil tanks and separators, located at many oil well sites. I asked Chris how often he was called in to drain the tanks at Survey 319. He said it is not a high-producing oil well, so it's not as often as most others. Chris said the last time he was at Survey 319 was on the 14th of August 2018, at approximately 2 p.m., to vacuum the pit, which is a tank to contain the water separated from the crude oil. I asked Chris if he noticed anything different or unusual at that time. Chris said an Anadarko operator arrived at the site shortly after he did, and parked east of the oil pump head.
On the 14th of August, which was the day after. So he was out there when there were people that were... Wow.
Chris said that was unusual, because he had never seen anyone park that far away from the tank area. It should be noted the area Chris described is also adjacent and near the area where Shanann's body was recovered.
So he parked away from her.
Chris said he didn't recognize the person, but was convinced he was an Anadarko employee, because he was driving a dark full-size pickup, consistent with Anadarko trucks.
So Chris had gone out there to check?
Chris said he spoke with the man who told him he was looking for a wrench he lost from leaving it on his rear bumper.
That's what... Wait, that was Troy. Didn't Troy say that?
Or tailgate, and to check on things. I asked Chris if he was able to get the man's name. Chris said he did not, but that man signed his electronic JSA form. When asked, Chris explained a JSA form is a job safety analysis document he completes for each site he works at. When an Anadarko employee is also present at a job site, he requests they sign the electronic form. Chris said once his JSA form was signed, he went back to vacuuming the holding tank and the unidentified Anadarko employee drove off.
Who's the unidentified? It could either be Troy, because I think Troy did say that he lost a wrench. He went to go back and pick it up.
I asked Chris if he would be able to get a copy of the JSA form for that specific visit. He said he likely could, and shortly thereafter informed me it was available and could be emailed to me. After I provided my email address to Chris, I received an email from Brett Rettis, Complete Energy Services, at 11:19 hours, with the associated JSA form attached. I opened the attachment and observed two typed names with signatures below them. The first was Chris's name and signature, and the second was Troy McCoy's name and signature. I contacted Commander Egan, at the FPD, and informed him of what I had learned and requested someone contact and interview Troy McCoy about his presence at the Survey 319 site on the 14th of August 2018. At 11:21 hours I forwarded, via email, to Commander Egan the JSA form I was provided via email. Nothing further, Detective.
Very interesting.
Dave Baumhover.
Just very curiosity. So we got Chris's name. So here's the tanks. This is where he parked. Septic tank. So Troy signed. Very, very interesting. On to the next. So this next interview is with ZENTNER, Krista MEACHAM, Cindy DEROSSETT, Cassie Rosenberg, and Karen EPPS on the 3rd of October. I don't know if this is all together, but again, this is when she was in Arizona.
2018, Colorado Bureau of Investigation, CBI, Field Agent Greg ZENTNER contacted several of Shanann Watts' friends to inquire about their knowledge of Shanann's alcohol consumption.
She had nothing.
I contacted CRISTINA MEACHAM.
Well, out of everybody's got water or some type of special drink. And what is Shanann drinking? A thermos, probably of water or something Thrive.
Cindy DeRossett, Cassandra Rosenberg, and Karen EPPS via telephone. CRISTINA MEACHAM stated she had stayed at Shanann's house for about 2 months in 2017 when Shanann was recovering from neck surgery. MEACHAM said the only time she saw Shanann drink any alcohol during her stay with Shanann was on about August 20, 2017. And that was when the two of them had dinner at Shanann's house. MEACHAM said this was about a week before Shanann had her neck surgery, approximately August 28, 20.
It sounds like Shanann was not an alcoholic drinker. She probably had wine here and there. So for those people that keep sitting there hating on Shanann, saying that she's drinking all this, what are you guys on? Like, well, where are you finding this information? Because it's just ridiculous that they keep trying to find things bad on Shanann when she's the victim. She's the one that was removed from this earth for no dumb reason.
2017. MEACHAM said they bought a bottle of white wine and they each had 1 glass of wine from this bottle during dinner. MEACHAM said she was with Shanann most of the time when she was in Colorado. MEACHAM said she took over the care for the children during this time and she did some of the cleaning around the house while Shanann was recovering. MEACHAM said she did not recall ever seeing any alcohol in the house other than that half bottle of wine left over from their dinner on about August 20, 2017. MEACHAM also said she has been on a few business trips with Shanann for their Thrive business. MEACHAM said alcohol consumption is not part of the Thrive healthy living lifestyle that Shanann was following.
Which Shanann was very religious on keeping dead on.
MEACHAM said she did see Shanann have a few alcoholic drinks on these trips but classified Shanann's alcohol consumption as very minimal and only.
But what do you do on vacation as an adult? 90% of the time, they drink. So she's allowed to. She's
social drinking. MEACHAM said she has never seen Shanann drunk or even mildly intoxicated. MEACHAM said she has known Shanann for more than 14 years. MEACHAM said if Shanann was going to have an alcoholic drink it would probably be wine. Cindy DeRossett stated she was with Shanann in Arizona during the Thrive conference on August 10 to 12, 2018. DeRossett said she was in charge of the event in Arizona so she did not have the opportunity to spend much time with Shanann. DeRossett said she did have dinner with Shanann on Friday, August 10, 2018. DeRossett said she did not see Shanann drink any alcohol during this dinner. DeRossett said Shanann seemed like she was not her normal self during the weekend.
Because she was upset about the whole thing with Chris, probably.
DeRossett said Shanann appeared to be defeated. DeRossett said Shanann appeared to be devastated that Shanann was possibly losing her marriage. DeRossett said she also had dinner with Shanann on Sunday, August 12, 2018, at the Thirsty Lion in Tempe, Arizona. DeRossett said after dinner she drove Shanann to the airport for her flight back to Denver. DEROSSETT provided a picture of them at dinner. DEROSSETT said she didn't see Shanann drink any alcohol during this dinner. DEROSSETT said Shanann was not much of a drinker and she always wanted to be an attentive mom. So she didn't want to be so impaired that she couldn't take care of her kids.
Sounds like a good mom.
DEROSSETT added that because Shanann was pregnant there was no way Shanann had anything to drink, and 100% would not put that child in danger by drinking. DEROSSETT said Shanann might have.
I'm rolling my eyes because all the proof there is from Shanann's parents, from her friends. I mean, Chris said one time that she's not a big drinker. And there's people that have forums on Facebook that completely enjoy bashing Shanann. And for what? The information that we want to know is possibly with Nicole being involved. Shanann has nothing to do with this besides that we need to fight for justice for her. We don't need to look into her past. We don't need to look in if she did this when she was younger. Like, what is that going to solve? She was annihilated with her children because of Chris, a person that she thought was going to be her rock, her forever. But yet, Chris wanted to find some hanky-panky little thing. I'm trying to watch what I say because of YouTube guidelines, but I just don't understand why people continuously bash on Shanann. It doesn't make sense. That's like bashing, what was that little girl? I can't remember her name. She had the curly hair, curly blonde hair. It's like back in the early 90s, I think. She was missing. We think she was murdered. But it's like bashing on her. I just don't get it. I don't. If anybody can reasonably tell me why it's important to do that, let me know down in the comments. But I guarantee there's no justification for that.
One drink in a social setting, and if Shanann were to drink it would have been a glass of wine. DEROSSETT said she and all of their friends did raise a lemon drop drink to honor Shanann at Shanann's funeral because that would have been a drink that Shanann would have liked. Cassandra Cassie Rosenberg stated she was with Shanann in Arizona during the Thrive Conference on August 10 to 12, 2018. Rosenberg said she stayed in the same hotel room with Shanann during the weekend. Rosenberg said Shanann seemed to be depressed. Rosenberg explained, and said Shanann had been talking to her almost every day while Shanann was in North Carolina, and
I think too, listening to some of these interviews, I think possibly that when Chris and Shanann came back from North Carolina to Colorado, there's already a rift that was beginning, and Chris probably was like, you know what, just go on your trip. We'll talk about it when you come back on Monday or Sunday night, Monday, whatever have you. So she had already been upset. She'd already been distraught, depressed, upset. Like, she's going through a lot. So when she went back, after probably her talking with Chris here and there when he did answer, she thought maybe they were going to be able to fix things. They were going to be able to whatever, and that's where everything went south. That's a possibility thought that I had with why she was so upset through the weekend. And it probably didn't help that when she saw the money that was spent at the Lazy Dog, it confirmed everything that she thought and knew. And that's what it made it even worse for her.
Shanann had expressed concern about the way Chris Watts was acting towards her. Rosenberg also said Shanann was not feeling well because of the pregnancy and she was also extremely busy with her Thrive business. Rosenberg said Shanann was not eating very well either. Rosenberg said she never saw Shanann drinking any alcohol while she was with Shanann in Arizona. Rosenberg said there was no way Shanann would drink alcohol while she was pregnant.
So where are these haters coming up with that Shanann was drinking? Oh, because she had something in her toxicology report for her autopsy? Because when bodies break down, they release chemicals that make it look like they consumed alcohol.
Rosenberg said Shanann was not much of a drinker anyway. Rosenberg said if Shanann did ever drink anything it would be a glass of wine. Rosenberg said that Shanann told her that if she did drink alcohol it would cause a flare-up of Shanann's lupus and fibromyalgia. Rosenberg said she has known Shanann for more than 2 years and she has never seen Shanann drunk or even slightly intoxicated. Karen EPPS stated she was with Shanann in Arizona during the Thrive Conference on August 10 to 12, 2018. EPPS said Shanann said she wasn't feeling good in general. EPPS said Shanann told her she was having issues with Chris Watts and she added that the pregnancy was making her feel bad. EPPS said she had been speaking with Shanann on the phone when Shanann was in North Carolina. During this time Shanann complained that she was feeling dehydrated and Shanann was vomiting because of the dehydration. EPPS said she never saw Shanann drink any alcohol while she was with Shanann in Arizona. EPPS said she couldn't remember a time when she has seen Shanann drink any alcohol. EPPS said she has known Shanann for over a year. Nothing further. Greg ZENTNER.
Did it? Very, very interesting things going on here. One, she never drank. So for the haters, shut up. Like, I don't know what you are on. The other two, like the Anadarko employees or employee, not well, the other one was a vacuum truck operator that had to take the water out of the oil. Nothing of a big concern. I mean, the whole thing with Troy, again, people were trying to put something on Troy saying he was involved. But I mean, I think the guy was just, I don't know. I don't see him being involved. There's a secondary interview that I like to watch with Troy. Just for the sake of watching it. But these interviews don't like raise any like super big red flags, but the red flags that are there are the ones that people keep blaming on Shanann, saying, "Oh, she was a drinker. Didn't care about her kids." Like, what are you? If anybody was a great mom, it was Shanann. From everything that I've watched and seen, she's on pictures and video and people telling from her family and her friends, she was a great mom. So what are these haters on? I have no idea. And they're just or I wouldn't say reverse psychologying, but they're flipping the truth into a complete lie and to be evil about it because some people, like I said before, like to watch the world burn and they don't care who they cross, what they say, as long as it makes themselves feel better, they're going to do whatever they want. If you guys heard or saw anything that I might have not seen or heard and you kind of raises a eyebrow at you, let me know down in the comments. Again, I just wanted to watch these for the sake of them. It might not be something that's huge or explosive content, but it's just something for us to watch, get what we can from it, and then move on to the next video or the next topic. So, again, thank you guys for being here. Please take care, be safe, and as always, keep nerding on, and we will see you guys in that next video.